Hey folks, welcome back to Max and Abe Horsemanship and Baby Steps. Well, I'm really disappointed because I don't have anything new to show you today. And really there's not a whole lot left to do with this horse. We're running out of things. There's a couple more things that maybe if we get another calm day like this, I might pull out the tarp. It's kind of hard to work with that thing in the wind. We can do a little desensitizing with a plastic bag. And well, not long from now, I think we're going to be trailer loading her too. And oh, on the trimming thing, yeah, I'm just about there. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be trimming her tomorrow. I pulled out my rasp today, and well, before I turned the camera on, and I picked up both front and back feet, ran the rasp over them. She didn't care, didn't react at all. She doesn't seem to care about that thing at all. And I'm sure that you're not going to have that kind of stuff. And it's like I said, you got to work up to things no matter what you're doing. And if you have a horse that's a whole lot less cooperative than this one, you might have to do things like just leave the hoof stand and rasp and nippers and stuff just laying there, so that the horse gets used to seeing them around and they don't mean much to it. It doesn't bother them, and then eventually just touch the hoof. I actually all out did some rasping on one, and she didn't react at all, which is almost a little unusual for a very first time. Usually the first time something touches their foot, they react a little bit to it, whether it's the rasp or the nippers or even a hoof pick maybe. I'm sure would do the same thing too. And what a lot of guys will do is they'll actually just pick the hoof up and just pat it with their hand, just to get them used to things, stuff going on down there. Things touching them, things hitting them, vibrations, sensations. These are all things you got to work up to it. I'm convinced that they're not all going to be this good, because this one is exceptional. She's been very good about so many things that I'm really, really surprised. There's very little we've found that gets her concerned even in the least. But other than that, we've just kind of been doing the same old stuff all over and over. And it's, like I said, repetitions. You might have to do things, 20, 50, 100, maybe 200 times. I don't know. Doesn't matter. There's some stuff that you will probably always do. Well, you should anyhow. I mean, certain things like just asking the horse to move, let me go, dear. Like that. Doesn't seem like a big deal, does it? No. But you know what? I'm probably going to do this for the rest of her life, or at least as long as I'm working with her. I do it with my own horse, and I believe it's something that you should always do with the horse. Not that you necessarily need to have it move, getting direction, but it's just a case of it listening to you and responding to your cues, period, no matter what they are. And that's just one of many cues you might give your horse that will require it to do something. And the only way it gets really good at stuff is just by doing it over and over again. Now, like I said, right now, there's not much I can show you today. And so I think today and tomorrow's video, we're going to pack them together, put them in one. And maybe we'll have enough length there to make a whole video for you, because I know you want to see something. And I've done this a couple of times now where I've actually there's been so much repetition and so little new things to show you that I have actually put videos together. And tomorrow there's probably a good chance there will be something to show you, because I am going to trim her, and I think I'm going to turn the camera on for that one and just let you see what happens. And I don't know, maybe you and I will both be surprised at how little she reacts, or maybe how much she reacts. I don't know. So far we've used the tools on her feet. We've put her foot on the hoof stand. We've been picking up the feet, all this stuff. And all of it's going quite well. Very little reaction from her whatsoever. So I'm thinking, it might not be bad, but you just never, ever know. Don't assume anything. And I did a video about that a while back, too. Actually, it's happened to me a couple of times where I got a little too comfortable with one of my own horses, because they were so non-reactive, and I got to know them so well that, I I wasn't expecting the unexpected, and things happened. Fortunately, nothing horribly bad. Nobody got hurt. Nothing went terribly bad. But, you know, it was just a lesson for myself and a reminder that, you know, no matter how good the horse is or how much you know it, you got to pay attention. You really do. And that's not one of those things that ever ends. So I think that's all I'm going to talk about today. We're going to keep this real short today. And tomorrow when I trim her, I think I'm going to turn the camera on for that. I'm going to share that with you because it's going to be another first. And, well, you may as well see how that one turns out, because I think it's actually going to go fairly well, but who knows? You know, anything can happen, and you know, she might get excited, not like it. There might be just a little bit too much all going on at one time for her, because we're going to be holding up her feet. You know, we're going to, at some point, use the hoof stand. We're going to be using the tools. All of this stuff, you know, you combine it all at once, and it might be a little too much for her. Who knows? We don't know this stuff. And so I think I'm going to bring you along for that one. And I mentioned before, you always got to be willing to deal with things when you can. You'll notice that while I was talking to you, she crowded in on me a little bit. She wasn't being bad. She just wanted to be real close to me. But I didn't want her that close because, you know, there's always a risk that she might accidentally step on my foot or something. And even though this is not a very big horse, she probably weighs 3 or 4 times as much as I do. And having another human, even my size, stepping on my foot would hurt. Having a horse with very hard hooves stepping on my foot would probably hurt quite a bit, because she weighs a lot more than a human does, in spite of the fact she's not real big. That's why I keep saying that you got to be careful. And I think I shared the story once before, but I'm going to share it again because it's important, and it's one of those concepts people don't seem to understand. Is at one point, a number of years back, some lady was a little, I don't know, not impressed with the fact that I thought I had a little bit of skill. And she goes, "You can't call yourself a horseman until you work with a 2,000-pound horse that can kill you." I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking after that one, and I have thought about it ever since. It's like, lady, you don't know much about horses, because they don't have to be that big to kill you. Even a mini can kill you if it kicks you in the wrong place, or right place, or whatever, you know what I mean. Something this size, even though she's a fairly small horse, she's going to be a lot bigger when she's done growing. And she's still big enough and heavy enough and strong enough that she could easily kill me. You know, it's not a joke. When you're working with horses, fact is, they can be dangerous. It's possible. They don't always mean to be. It's just a case of it can happen. And you always need to be prepared for that. Be ready to jump out of the way in a hurry, ready to wave your flag in a hurry, whatever it takes. Make sure you got a hold of the lead whenever necessary. All these things. Pay attention, will you? Might save your life, goodness sakes. So, anyhow, until tomorrow, don't go anywhere. Okay, for you, you aren't going to be going anywhere. It's going to be right away. Oh well. Due to the magic of editing. Hey, welcome back. Okay, we didn't really go anywhere. I turned the camera off, and then all of a sudden I thought, you know, I started playing around with her, and I'm doing something that I've showed you before, the whole side pass thing. And, well, I want to show you what it can evolve to, how good it can get. Now this, I've only done it a couple times with her, but this is how good she got. Now, she's not this good on both sides, unfortunately, but I want to show you how good she gets, well, at least on one side. And this is kind of what your goal is, that when you want your horse to move, you don't want to have to push and shove and all that stuff. You don't even want to have to poke it and prod it and that sort of thing. You just want to be able to do this. Now, is she even going to do it today? Oh, she's moving. Yes, there we go. And you'll notice, I'm not even touching her. I might have to here. Yep, I might have to. Just touch. Light touch. And away she goes. But for the most part here, she's making a liar out of me now. I was doing this earlier and I didn't even have to touch her going this way. Excuse me, dear. Okay, you can clearly see there, once we got her going, didn't even have to touch her. And that's what you want to work up to. You want to work up to the point where all you got to do is hold your hand out. You don't even have to touch the horse. That's our goal. I don't like pushing and shoving and touching and poking and all that good stuff. I want the horse to do what I want it to do with very, very little, very soft suggestions. We don't want to get in a fight with the horse. We want the horse to simply know what we want, and it has to be willing to do it. That's our goal here, anyhow. But I said that when first time I showed you this stuff, which it's not that great yet. It gets better. It does, honestly, it gets way better. But I showed this to you a while back, and I said that eventually I'll have the horse side passing towards me, because that is ultimately, what we want to do. And I thought I'd just play with that a little bit today, and it turned out it worked exactly as I expected it would, the way I normally do things. And so I'm going to bring you along on this one, and I'm going to go over there up against the bale, and I'll explain why I'm doing that. You don't have to use a bale. That's just what I'm using because it's there. But there's lots of things you can use, and it all depends on the length of your arm, how tall the horse is, what tools you're using. There's a lot of variables in how you can do this. And this is one of those many things that nobody ever showed me how to do this. I just kind of figured it out for myself. I figured, well, if you do a certain cue one way, you can do a certain cue the other way. And if you limit the options that the horse can do, it makes it a lot harder for it to do the wrong thing. And, well, then eventually it does the right thing because it's about the only option there is. And when it does, you stop cueing and you, good girl. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Just give me a second. I'm going to move the camera over, set things up here, and I'm going to show you what we've been working on. Okay, don't think I'm being rude here, but I am going to have my back to you for a lot of this because, well, in order for her to be in a position where you could see what we're doing, that necessitates me having my back to you. Well, that way you'll get to see most of what I'm doing too. So don't take offense. This isn't personal just because I got my back to you. We've got lots here to show you. It's important stuff. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the horse in position here where I want her. Now, I'm using the bale here because this is works for me. And you don't have to, though. And depending on how tall the horse is and things like that, there's a lot of variations. This one's small enough I could probably do it just using my hand because I can reach over because she's not that big. But I'm going to use the stick because most of you are going to probably have to, depending how big your horse is. And it's got its advantages too. Now this can be done up against a wall, up against a fence. Fences I kind of like because when you go over, you got room for tapping. You're not going to hit a wall. A wall you can use though if you have to, but keep in mind that you might not have much room for movement. That's one of the reasons I'm using this bale here. Well, it's there and it's not really in my way, sort of thing. It's hard to explain, but what I'm going to do is similar to what I did when we had her side pass away from us. I'm going to hold the lead quite short so she can't go forward or backwards. Being up against something, whether it's a fence, a bale, a wall, anything, the horse cannot go away from you. So basically what you've done is you left it with one option, and that is to go towards you. Now I'm just going to get her back up against there fairly tight. And this is where, because I've already taught her to side pass away from me, I can position her that way. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our stick, and we're going to start tapping in the flank area, just gently, not hard. And, well, okay, she's learning this really quick. She already took a step. I should have stopped there, my bad. But she can't really move away from me. There we go. As soon as she takes a step, I'm going to stop. See that? Did you see how easy that was? We only did this once before with the camera not running. And as soon as she took a step, I was like, okay, I got to catch this before it gets any better. It's already getting too good because it didn't take long. I have had horses where I was tapping until my arm got tired before the horse would finally take a step. But in her case, it didn't take that long. But she actually was getting a little concerned. You could tell the head was getting up high. She was getting a little confused. She didn't know what to try doing. And she couldn't go away from me. I wouldn't let her go forward or backwards because of where I was holding the halter. So basically, it took a while for her to figure it out, but it really wasn't all that long. And she eventually took a step towards me. Now, I'm already a fair ways from the bale now, so if she wanted to, she could go away. But let's try and see if she'll go towards me. Now, I'm just going to tap very lightly, and as soon as she takes a step, I stop. Again. And she takes a step and I stop. Instantly. Now eventually this is going to evolve to the point where I'm going to bring this thing up and I'm not going to have to touch her. She's going to know what to do. Or maybe just lightly touch her. And actually I think she's already in. Yes, that's all I got to do now is just touch her. I don't have to tap her. And eventually this whole thing is going to evolve to the point where all you have to do is put your hand up in that area because the horse anticipates what comes next, which is the stick touching it. And if your hand's in that area, the horse will come towards you. And well, like I said, nobody ever taught me this one. I just kind of figured it out for myself, but I've taught quite a few horses how to do this, and it works extremely well, and it is quite useful. Like I said, there was one day I was in a box stall, as an example. I've used it lots of times, but I wanted to get around the other side of the horse. It was right up against the side of the stall. I wanted to get on that side. I don't remember why. It doesn't matter. And all I did was I just held my hand up, and the horse took 2 steps over, and then I could walk around the other side. Simple as that. So it is a useful thing, and it really helps. The more maneuverable the horse becomes, the easier your life's going to be. Because, you are going to, from time to time, I don't know if the cat, from time to time, you're going to want to maneuver the horse a little bit. I'm just going to hold this up on that direction. And there we go. Beautiful. Just take a step ahead, dear. A little more. And right there. Perfect. I don't know if the camera shows it, but there's actually a pile of poo on the ground there, too. Because the first time we did this, that's how nervous she got. Okay, she got a little stressed about the whole thing, trying to figure out what to do, and to the point where she ended up relieving herself. I'm going to have to clean that up when we're done, but let's try this one more time now, and I'm just going to start by touching her and see if that, oh yeah, that's all we got to do now. We just have to touch her, and she moves over. Look at that. Oh my goodness. She's doing that beautiful, like a professional. Won't be long, and all I'm going to have to do is hold my hand up. I won't even have to use the stick anymore. Wow, goodness. So anyhow, that's something you can work on. Don't expect it to go that quick, man. I've had it take a lot longer. Like I said, there was one horse I just did, and man, I stood there tapping on him for so long, and my arm got tired. I was having trouble continuing because to him it was like he just didn't care. I could have been beating on him with a 2x4, and he wouldn't have cared. Strange horse that one was. But as it turned out, once he figured out what I wanted, he was actually pretty sensitive to my cues. And even the first time I rode him, I never even had to use the reins to stop him. I just stopped him off my seat. It's a term that you will hear people use if you don't know what that means. I'm not going to bother trying to explain that right now, but I was really impressed how well it worked. And I just got to try this one more time. I'm just amazed. I'm going to bring the stick up, go on the other side of the horse. And that's why I like using a stick, because it's long enough it extends my arm so I can actually reach the other side of the horse. And all I got to do, she's already getting ready to move. I'm just going to touch her, and away she goes. Oh, beautiful. Excellent. Good girl. Wow. That's impressive. Well, I don't know what you think, but I think that's pretty good. So I couldn't resist, as you see how fast it got better. I thought I'd better show you before it got any better than it was, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to show you. Yeah. So, well, anyhow, I'm going to play with her a little bit more, do some more side passing. I think I'm going to try this from the other side. I'm going to turn around, do it the other way. I chose working on that side first because I noticed even side passing left and right. She's definitely far better one side than the other. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to try this side instead of the other side, because I thought for the first time this might be the smart choice. Otherwise, my arm's going to get tired. Yeah. But now that she's figured out what to do, I'm thinking, I could be thinking wrong, but I'm thinking, even though it is a completely different side, which makes it a new event, I'm thinking once we do the other side, it's going to be a little bit easier. I hope, because the other side is not her good side, so I'm hoping things will work a little better. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn the camera off, I'm going to turn her around, and I'm going to do the same thing from the other side and work on it that way, because I know her left and right sides are not the same. She's made it very clear. Most stuff, she's pretty good, it doesn't make any difference, but I have noticed, particularly when it comes to the side pass, she's definitely much better on one side than the other. And chances are you're going to notice that with your horse too. One side or the other. I'm not going to say which is which, because it could be this one, could be that one, and it all depends on the horse. And just like humans, we're side dominant. That's why you have right-handed and left-handed people. One side's we're side dominant. That's all there is to it. That's why whether I get on a motorcycle or get on a horse or whatever I do, I generally tend to do it from the left side because I'm right-handed. If I was left-handed, I'd probably find it more comfortable doing it from the other side. Unfortunately, horses, the tack, and motorcycles, they're all set up for right-handed people. They're not set up to accommodate the left-handed people, unfortunately. But, oh well. And that's a topic for another day. Well, no, actually, that's kind of a topic that goes throughout the whole training process, because you have to recognize when the horse is side dominant, and it might do something super good on one side and not worth a crap on the other side. That's not unusual. That happens quite a bit, and so far, the only time that has been a problem with her is when it comes to the side passing. Everything else she's done equally as well, both sides, pretty much. I did notice a slight difference from one side to the other with the feet, and, well, whatever. Interestingly enough, most horses are actually better on the left side than the right when it comes to things. In her case, she tends to actually be better with the other side. I'm not sure if that means she's left-handed or something. I don't know. Anyhow, something to keep in mind. Your horse is going to be side dominant, so when you're working with your horse, one side's going to be better than the other. And you can join me again when I trim her tomorrow. I don't think I'm going to turn the camera on again before that. I hope. I don't think. Pretty sure not. We'll see. Well, it's the next day. But before I get started on the trim, which we're going to do today, this is the day. This is the day we're going to do a trim on that little horse. And, well, let's hope it all goes well. And I've done everything I need to do ahead of time. Because, well, to be honest, this is a first for me. This is the first time I have ever actually done the very first trim on a horse. I've trimmed a lot of horses, but this is the first time I've ever taught one to be trimmed and done it for the very first time. So this is actually a first for me. And what is almost a first is working with a horse that is completely untrained and unhandled. And, well, in some ways it's kind of nice because it's a clean slate, and I'm not trying to fix somebody else's screw-ups, because most of the horses I have worked with in the past have been problem horses, ones that most people would consider to be dangerous or unhandleable. One was even titled untrainable and unrideable. Actually, I rode that horse. And I'm a bit of a chicken too, so it's got to be real good before I get on. Same with the trimming thing. I've actually got a little bit of concern here because I'm not worried about the front ones, but those back ones, well, they can be a problem. They can be bad, but I really hope I've done everything I can to make things okay, because it's like everything you do, you work in increments, work up to it gradually, touching her legs, then picking up the feet, then picking them up for a little bit longer. I presented the hoof stand to her. She sniffed at that. Then I set her foot on it. And then that was off camera too. I mentioned that already. And then after the camera was off yesterday, I also introduced her to the rasp. And, you know, it's, you think it's just one thing, you go ahead and use it. No, not quite. First thing I did was I held it up, let her see it, I let her sniff it, and then I picked up her foot and I touched her with it. And then I actually rasped a little bit on it, both the front and back foot. And you might think, well, that's no big deal, but you know, it's a completely, picking up the hoof and doing something on it is two different things altogether, because, you know, some horses are very fuzzy about the sensation. The hoof gets wiggled around a lot, there's a vibration from the rasp and stuff like that, and that's why they get concerned. And so hopefully, if I've done everything right, we're going to be able to do a trim today without any problems. And well, as I promised, I'm going to put the camera on the situation and let you see how it goes, because, well, I'm trying to show you every one of the firsts. Everything that we do for the first time, I'm trying to show you. Okay, I think I maybe missed a couple of things, but they were, you got to see like maybe the second time sort of thing. It wasn't horribly wrong. But I also, before I get started on the trim, I want to talk about the tools I'm using. And they're nothing special, it's just a nippers and a rasp, but no big deal. But I want to talk about them a little, because those of you that have never used them don't understand what these tools are like. Now the rasp, or well, we'll start with the nippers. The nippers themselves, you'll notice how close to the top the pivot point is. It's very close. And the cutting edge on here, when these things are new, that's extremely sharp. And well, even now they're pretty darn sharp still, and I've used them a bit. And just the weight of this handle coming down is heavy enough that because that pivot point's so far ahead, if you got your fingers caught in there, well, you're probably going to get a nasty cut at the least, and possibly lose part of your finger, just from the weight of the handle. You know, it's that heavy, and the leverage is that much, and that fulcrum point on there is smooth enough, or should be, that these things can move freely. A little tip, if you own a set of these or you ever buy a set, what I did for years, just very recently, I stopped using the case for it because it had disintegrated to the point where it wasn't usable anymore. I'm going to come up with something different now, but I always kept them in the case because that kept them closed, and that makes them much safer. Because if they're laying around like that and you stick your hand in somewhere and hit that blade, you could get a cut, and then when you pull your hand back, it lifts them up, and then they close up. Yeah, it's going to be a bad day. So if you don't have the case anymore, or you throw it away or whatever, when you're not using them, put an elastic band around the handles or something, anything to keep them closed. It can really, it's a safety feature. And well, these things are one of those things where when you're working with a horse, you want a well-trained horse, because it's a safety issue for both you and the horse, because these things are potentially dangerous. These are nasty little tools if you're not careful with them. Same is true of the rasp. And I found out the hard way with one of these ones. Typically I would wear gloves when trimming, but not always. Sometimes I'll do it barehanded. Smart thing to do would be wear gloves, because the slightest brush on your hand from this side, which is the coarse side, it's got all these little teeth sticking out on it, and just brush it across your hand and it'll rip flesh off. These things, you know, they're not nice. They can do a lot of damage to you. Take a lot of flesh off very, very quickly and very easily. When I did it to myself, it was just a light brush. I barely touched myself with it, and yeah, there was blood flowing. So that's part of the reason you want your horse trained well when you're working with these tools. And if you're not the one doing the trim, if you hire a farrier, which is, I understand, they're going to be using these tools too. And well, for their safety and your horse's safety, the training is very, very important. And that's why I wanted to explain. These two tools here are extremely potentially extremely dangerous if in a bad situation. They can be real dangerous. Bad things can happen. And there's one more tool I don't have here. I used to have one. I don't know where it went. It's gone, long gone. Hoof knife that a lot of guys use, and I don't care. They're not that important to me. But they're made for cutting the sole and the frog and stuff like that. Those things are a very strong metal and a very sharp blade. And one slip with those things and you can cut yourself bad. You can also cut the horse bad too. So again, one more reason, not just these two tools, but the knife as well. Reasons you want a well-trained horse when you're trying to trim or when somebody else is doing it, because you don't want bad things happening. But on the subject of the knife, though, I don't care that I don't have one. I rarely used it. Once in a while I'd use it on the bars because I couldn't get a hold of them with the nippers. Usually I just use the nippers on the bars. Once in a while I would use the knife. That's about the only time. And I found what was interesting is, well, I should back up a little, and overusing the knife can really make a horse tenderfoot. And not unlike a human that runs around barefoot, if a horse runs around on rough ground a lot, it toughens up the sole. They develop a callus, and that actually protects their sole so that even right after a trim, they can go riding around. You can ride up and down a gravel road. I used to do it lots, right after a trim. Never had a problem with a tenderfoot horse, and that's a term you'll probably hear every once in a while is, well, my horse was tender after a trim. Well, that only happens if they overdo it with the knife. And that's why some people are really against them. I don't agree with them. Some people really like to trim the sole down so it looks real pretty, trim the frog, all this stuff. I don't agree with that, because it's like, you know, a barefoot runner trimming some of their callus off their foot. All of a sudden, even on the slightest bit of rough ground, they're going to be ouchy. It's going to happen, and you don't want that, so it's best not use a knife. Let nature take its course. A few occasions I've seen where guys would use a knife, but the only thing they did was take off the toe callus. That's the callus that builds up just behind the toe of the hoof, and by getting rid of that, it makes it a little easier to nip if you take that off first. But that's the only part they'd touch with the knife. So I didn't mind that too much, because it kind of has to go away. You know, it's one of those things. Otherwise, it's going to be sticking out further than the hoof wall, and you don't really want that either. And that's my opinion on knives. But I'm not the only one that has that opinion. And it was interesting, is I was actually talking to a farrier one time, and this is a farrier's opinion. He says if a farrier ever shows up on your property with a knife, kick him off the property before he even pulls that thing out. That was his opinion of knives. And that was coming from a farrier. He didn't approve of those things either, because they are often misused. And if you go too hard with them, I've even heard of cases, I haven't seen it, but I've heard of cases where they even drew blood. They cut so much sole they actually got down to the fleshy part, or yeah, they exposed blood. And there's no reason for taking any of the sole off. You take a look at the wild horses, nobody touches them with a knife. Nobody trims them, in fact. But that's a little different situation. Most of our problems that occur are caused by ourselves. You know, we don't want to be causing problems with the horses. We want to help the horse. That's my goal. I want to help the horse as much as possible. I don't want to cause it problems. So that's one of the reasons I don't use a knife. And on that toe callus, well, I trim around it the best I can. And then when I'm rasping the toe of the hoof itself, I actually rasp that toe callus off in the process. And you will read occasionally articles that say never rasp the sole. And I think, this is just a theory, I think the reason they say that is because if you're actually rasping the sole, that means you've taken off too much hoof. Well, in this case, I figure it doesn't really matter if you're using a knife or a rasp. That part of the sole has to come off. The toe callus, which can be quite proud, stick up quite a bit above the rest of the sole, it has to come off. And once you've trimmed down the rest of the hoof, you can take that off with a rasp quite easily while you're doing the hoof itself. It's not horribly hard, and like I say, I don't think it makes a difference whether you use a knife or a rasp. It's got to come off anyhow, and it's convenient. And if you don't take too much hoof off, it makes it pretty much impossible to take too much sole off, because your rasp isn't going to go past the hoof. So as long as you don't take too much hoof off, you're not going to take too much sole off with a rasp. So even though some people will say you absolutely don't rasp the sole, I think it's how it's done, you know, and that's just a precautionary thing for, you know, to keep people from overdoing it on the hoof itself, because you don't want to take too much off. It's like trimming your nails too short. Same thing, because that's essentially, that's exactly what you're dealing with. It's on a horse, that's the nail, the fingernail that you're dealing with, or toenail, and whatever you want. That's exactly what you're dealing with when you're dealing with the hoof. And you know, this is where I also said, you know, don't be scared to try it yourself. Just, you know, use common sense. Don't take too much off, and just, you know, if you have to, you can take a little more later. It's okay. You can always do it a second time. And if you do accidentally take a little bit too much off, just leave it alone. Let it grow out. It's just like a fingernail or hair. It grows. Okay, it's going to come back, and then you can straighten it out. It's not a crisis. It's not a big deal. As long as you don't go to the extreme where you've gone up so far you're drawing blood or anything like that, because you absolutely don't want to do something like that. But I'm not going to try and explain to you how to trim a hoof, because that's not my forte. I'm not an expert on this stuff. And as I said before, if you do it yourself, it's pretty easy to actually learn enough to do maintenance trims. If you run into problems, don't be scared to make a phone call and ask an expert, assuming they actually know what they're talking about. You know, don't be scared to do that. I've done it, and I will do it again if I need to. So anyhow, I'm going to go get a horse now, and we're going to commence the trimming. Let's see what happens and hope for the best. Well, it would appear we have a problem with our mic. For some strange reason, the batteries died. And they were actually fairly good ones, fairly new. They should have been good for a very long time yet. I just changed them not long ago. And all of a sudden they died. I guess maybe we had a bad batch there. And I was all set up, ready to start trimming. I'm not going to run back into the house now, so you're not going to get much audio on this one. It's going to be kind of the equivalent of a silent movie. But I'm going to show you anyhow, because I already got the camera set up for this, so I'm going to show you what I'm doing. And, well, we'll see how it goes. But I hope you enjoy it anyhow, even though the audio is going to be terrible on this one. I don't know if you can even hear me from over there. I know the last time I tried using the mic on the camera, it didn't work worth a darn. But I'm going to start with the front feet. I'm going to do both the front ones. And the reason for that is that the front ones are safer. They're the ones that need to be done the worst. And if I do the front ones, I'll do both sides, so that by the time I go to the back ones, the odds are much better for me. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm not going to bother talking to you, because I don't know if you can even hear me. I'm trying to speak reasonably loud right now, so hopefully you can hear me. I don't know, last time I tried using that thing like that, it didn't work worth a darn, but we'll see. So I'm not going to bother talking to you much. I'm just going to get busy here and do what I need to do. And I don't know how it's going to work. I have no idea. I really don't. But we're going to give it a try. stand still. You want to move, you get to move. Well, so far we've only done one hoof, but actually didn't go too bad. She did fuss a little bit, and you saw me do something that I've never explained to you, I've never mentioned doing before, and it's something I generally reserve for horses that know better. I'm going to put a link in the description to another video I did years ago, and I believe it was preparation for the farrier, and it was how to get your horse to stand still for a trim. And very simple concept that you can use for any time you want the horse to stand still. Don't argue with it. If it wants to move, let it move. Make it move. Lots. And control the movement. And that's what you saw me doing. You saw me doing a couple of circles with her. I don't know how good it showed up because I had the camera set up for lower down so you could see what I was doing in the trim. But every time she got out of hand with her fussing, I had her go a couple laps each direction, which really got her concerned, and I was a little hesitant to use that method on her because this is her first trim. I wasn't sure how she'd react, but it actually seemed to work. After a while, they would prefer to stand still and do nothing rather than move, because moving means, first off, that darn flag shows up, and secondly, they got to do some work, and they don't want to do either. They don't want either one of those things. They'd rather just stand still. So that's how you get your horse to stand still. And like I said, I'm going to put a link in the description so you, because I demonstrate with another horse that exact principle. And actually, I think I may have done a couple other videos on where I threw that in too. But I did one specifically where I did that to demonstrate exactly what I was doing and why I was doing it, and exactly how well it worked too. Now, in the case of that video, that was a horse that did have some experience, and he knew better. He knew to stand still. He should have. And you'll also notice in that one, I didn't even have a lead on the horse too, which is, well, because I was in an arena where he couldn't go anywhere anyhow. And that's generally how I like to trim. Now, in this case, we're out in the yard where if she did get away on me, she could go quite a ways, and we don't want that. So that's why we got the lead. It's a nuisance. I hate it. It's in my way, but it is what it is. We got to deal with it. So that's what we're going to do. So anyhow, I'm going to readjust the camera a little bit and get back to trimming. I think we were pretty successful on the first one. Let's see if the second one goes as good. You want to move? Relax. That's working well. That's right here. I'd love to be able to do this a lot faster. Get it over with for you. No. No. Good girl. right ahead and sniff at that thing. That's all right. That's a good girl. One step further ahead. There we go. You don't like that thing. It's got you concerned. Oh, that's not where I want you. Last chance, next time they're running. Perfect. Oh, that's it. You're moving. You want to move? Go ahead, move. butt back over there, or I'm going to make you move again. Oh, come on, move. Slipping on the ice over there. Good girl. Do the other one. As long as you don't fuss, you don't have to run. Yeah, we haven't done this one, have we? No, we didn't. No. Come on there. Good girl. Good girl. That's hard work, you know. There's a good reason that people pay good money to have somebody else do it for them, and I don't blame them. But we managed to successfully get the two front ones done, and I think we're going to quit there today. She wasn't perfect, but you know, all things in consideration, she was pretty good. I'm pretty happy with what we got. And, you know, I mean, she did fuss and fidget a little bit, but not bad. And I think that you know, you could tell she was a little stressed by the whole situation. She was a little nervous and jerky. So I think maybe we're just going to quit right there with the front ones. They're the ones that needed it the worst. The back ones weren't near as bad. They're a little overgrown, but they're not splitting, cracking, or chipping, or nothing like that. The front ones were. They actually really needed a trim. They actually look really good now. And I forgot to bring my hoof pick out because the last time I picked her feet up and looked at them, it was totally unnecessary, but just because of where she's been running around today, and the fact that the ground's a little bit wetter and softer. The hooves were a little muckier on the bottom, and I couldn't really see what I was doing very well. So I think we're going to bring the hoof pick out the next time so we can actually clean out enough that we can see what we're doing, because I was doing it with the end of the nippers and that doesn't work well. I had to scrape away with that just to see what I was doing. It makes it difficult when you can't tell what you're trimming. But I think we managed to do a fairly good job. And if it's not super good, well, like I said, next time I come out, I'm going to bring the hoof pick with me. And I'm going to clean those front ones up, take a good look at them, make sure I did a good job, because there's no guarantee. And hey, if they're not perfect, I can touch them up a little bit. And because of all the mess that was on there, there's a possibility I couldn't see what I was doing well enough to actually do a good job. So that's one of the things that is a concern, is we're not positive we did a good job, but they look pretty good, far better than they did before anyhow. The back ones, we didn't touch them because she was getting a little stressed by the whole situation, and that's okay. All in all, she wasn't doing terrible. And you saw me every time she'd fuss a little, you saw me make her move around with the flag sometimes, and I was changing directions and that sort of thing. Well, like I said, I'm going to put a link at the end of this in the description to another video I did on the topic, and where I demonstrate in a larger area how well that works. Now, in her case, it actually, I couldn't do it very well because I only got a 10-foot lead on her right now, and there's a fork sticking out of a bale in the way over there, my hoof stand, the tools on the floor. Can't do it quite as well as I would like to have. We didn't have a really big area to work in here, and I couldn't just let her run free, which is how I usually like to do it. But we did still manage to do it a bit, and in the end it actually did seem to help, because particularly on the one side, the first one she wasn't too bad with. The second one, I couldn't get her to stand in position. Now this is something else too. One more reason you want your horse as mobile as possible and maneuverable is I'm not going to keep moving that hoof stand around. I want her to stand where I put her, and I want to be able to put her where I want her. And you saw me maneuvering her around, and with very limited training we were capable of doing that. And that's one of the many reasons that we do this stuff, is so that when it comes time to do something like this, you can maneuver the horse into exactly the spot you want and get it to stay there. Well, if it doesn't want to stay there, if it wants to move, it gets to move. But I'm going to make it move lots, and eventually it's going to decide, you know what, I think I'm just going to stand here. And that's kind of our goal. Anyhow, that's about as far as we're going to go today. I think we're going to call it a day and put the horse away and finish the trim on another day. And one thing you will notice, I'm not wearing my coat right now. It's because trimming's hard work, and if I had left my coat on, not only would it get in my way, but I probably would have been sweating like a pig right now. And that's the main reason I took it off, because I knew I was going to get hot. And I didn't want to, so I took it off in advance. I'm actually a little bit on the cool side because it's breezy today, even though it is actually a fair bit warmer than yesterday. The wind's a lot better. Worse, more of it. Yeah. Yesterday, by the end of the day, it was almost dead calm. It was actually quite pleasant out here, even though it was considerably cooler than it is right now. Just the fact that it was pretty much dead calm and the sun was shining actually made it pretty good. So anyhow, take care, have a good day, go play with your horse, bye now.